Hi, Warriors. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone handled the Fed okay. It really wasn't the Fed wasn't much of a market mover, was it? We're going to talk about it. How you doing, Ingmar? Congratulations. If it's a golden morning for you, we're all glad. Nice trade. Brand, how are you? Scott, Glenn, Monir, are you new to Face? Nice to meet you. AJ, Ryan, Sunbed Day. Oh, all right. Hi, Marcus,
You
Brand.
get it. You got it in the end.
Yeah, in the end. I came in. All right, so Ryan, why don't we start off talking about the Fed and what your reactions were to what he said, and if you think it has any, didn't seem to have much in the way of big short-term implications, but does it for, you know, till March? Is March the next time they meet?
Yeah, but probably not the next time they cut. So yeah,
Okay.
we got the power we expected. He
Yeah.
walked around the garden, poked a few roses, and looked at the
Yeah.
hawkish cases, the dovish cases, the bullish, the bearish, inflation, the growth, and ended up leading everyone back out the garden path, none the wiser, with no big change. What the only
Yeah.
thing that has really changed is the market in terms of pricing doesn't see anything happening until June. And as I've been saying, coming into this meeting, what happens at these early year ones sets the tone for the months ahead. So unless the
Yeah.
data really takes off or starts collapsing, I can't see much happening until later in the year, May, which is not good for volatility, obviously.
So my question for me is, you know, I want to be long on a fib retrace. I thought it would be deeper than 38% in euro. Um, I still am going to be patient unless
Yeah.
we start closing over 4.5. Do you think there's a deeper correction coming, pullback before we advance again in euro and cable? Pretty much, in fact, cable is acting a little bit better, but I still think I'll have a chance in the 23 handle to do something in cable.
Yeah, you might do. The cable seems to, or the pound in general seems to have got over the negative hump from Rachel Reeves and all that stuff that was knocking yields up and the pound down. As for the euro, it's going to come on what the guard says. And a point I've been making on the flow show and whatnot is that there's a lot of central banks that are getting close to the area of neutral rates where they want neutral rates. This cut today by the ECB will put all their rates bar one under 3%. So how many more cuts are in the pipe? The Fed's on
Right.
pause, although they've got more to go. Canada's potentially on pause. The Riksbank's potentially on pause. Rates are not going to fall forever. So the risk today is either they continue cutting and then we're talking about cutting for stimulative measures, or they're going to say, yeah, well, we cut today, but we're getting closer to neutral. So we might have to take our foot off the gas.
Yeah, and
And look,
and they're probably every other central bank in the world is probably trying to game what tariffs are going to mean to their country.
yeah,
I mean, it's a
yeah.
global thing, right? It's not just we're trying to gauge what it's going to mean for the U.S. It's going to affect the whole world.
Well, if you read through the Bank of Canada statements, comments from Macklem, they're on pause purely because of tariffs.
Okay,
Um,
there you
so
go.
yeah, everyone's in the same boat. But you've got to remember where they want to get rates down to. They don't want to get rates down to zero. They want to get rates
No,
down to somewhere between 2 and 3%, and then keep them there. So we're coming in. Certain banks are coming towards the end of their cut phase. Others have still got plenty to go. BOE, Fed, RBA, and then the next trade is going to be can they keep it there?
okay,
So there's a limited
right.
window for how dovish some of the banks are, like the ECB today.
Okay. I just want to point out when I was talking to Steve earlier and talked about the gold silver ratio starting to roll over, it did. I think we'll need closes under 89 to seal it. But what we talked about yesterday is some pretty good downside objectives, and silver way outperformed. It is today too. It's outperforming gold. Um, yeah, here we are ready to test the recent high anyway. And I just want to, one thing that I was thinking about is, in the market as far as risk. Um, First they took out Apple. Okay, they took it out. It's changed. If this was an uptrend, all right. Um, then they took out Nvidia. Right, it could rally, but I'd give this a pretty low probability now. New highs here, and today they're taking out Microsoft. Okay, this was 78.6 back. It hasn't made a new high since July of last year. It's a second lower high. So, I'm not saying the market's going to fall apart today, but it's almost like you're knocking out bricks or part of the foundation of what built the case for the bull market that we had. So, we're down here now. All right. So, something to keep an eye on is that and you have days like you had Monday in S&Ps, and we've had a few of them now. I think it weakens the structure. It's like bolt of lightning, or you get these tremors in the market, and I don't think it's healthy, and it's pretty violent. So I mean, look at the intraday ranges after earnings come out. I haven't seen this kind of these kind of ranges. Look at the range in Meta, but see, that doesn't show the earnings. But look at in the after hours. Look at that. Same with Microsoft. I mean, you're getting ranges that you haven't seen before. So
Well,
I don't care if
every
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Dale, everybody's been waiting patiently for this week for these earnings. I mean, so and what we're seeing is basically a rotation inside the Mag 7. It's not a broad-based move. You got, Nvidia selling off, Microsoft selling off, Amazon's at highs, Meta's at highs. I mean, you're just getting a rotation inside. It's not
I don't
anything.
buy it. I
Well,
don't buy. I mean, you can have bifurcation in that group, but that's a change. When did we have them not all in uptrends together over the last several years?
yeah, but it's like it's just I mean, obviously the risk reward is not to be long, but it's not either. I don't believe it's a time to be panicking either. There's still and it's still to be seen. We've fallen for this before, Dale. Don't forget when everybody's like, oh, everybody's lopsided the whole, Mag 7 or Nvidia or whatever, then, markets come off. And then next thing you know, you have a lot of the, it's kind of, some of the consumer staples will start to rally. The energy market will start to rally, and you'll see, some of the air come out of the Mag 7. So I mean,
Well,
and
but like I think the Mag 7 led us up, and it will lead us down. It's they're too big a part of the averages to be able to rotate out of Mag 7s and find new leadership that could make up for them being under pressure.
I agree with you. I don't know if today's the day, and I don't know if this month is the month. You know what I mean?
I wasn't
Yeah.
saying it. I'm just saying that the foundation of the building is not as strong as it was even a few months ago when you're taking out leaders and shooting them. That's all.
Yeah, I know. But again, this has happened time and time again, and the market continues to find a way into new highs. And right now, all you have to do is have President Trump, enact tariffs that just aren't as sweeping as the market expects, and the S&P is going to be sitting at 6,200.
Mhm. Yeah, look, there's, yeah, that could have everything could happen. All I'm talking about is what I'm seeing, and I don't think it's bullish.
Yeah. Well,
That's all.
everybody's long Mag 7, everybody's long the dollar. and everybody's long crypto. So, you know, and everybody's short bonds. And speaking of bonds, if you're looking at the 10-year right now and you're looking at the notes, they're actually starting to break higher, and we're seeing yields break lower this morning. So, and that's ahead of some, you know, U.S. data that's upcoming, and we have PCE tomorrow. So, you know, maybe a, you know, weaker advanced GDP, you know, sends the bond market squeezing a little bit, and that might kickstart a few things in the markets.
Yeah, like I said, anything could happen.
Anything can happen.
I like, you know,
Anything.
you were long puts into Monday. What happened?
Oh, I'm still got puts on.
Oh,
Fortunately, I
okay.
got
You
things that
sound like
are,
a bull.
huh?
You
No,
sound like
no,
a bull in the market. Yeah.
but at the same time, you know, you look at I have to take just because I happen to have some puts that I've written doesn't mean that, you know, I can't look objectively at the market
Oh,
and
you
say,
wrote them?
no, I mean that I bought, excuse me, that I bought puts on
Yeah.
some individual names, but it's like, you know, I still look at the market and still looks constructive. You know, I can't
Okay.
not say that, right? I
Well, you could say
I
you
can't
could
will
say
the
whatever
market
you
lower.
want.
I
Oh,
can't will the
okay.
market lower.
Cheese.
Yeah, okay.
There you go. That's a cheese. Say what you want.
Cheese?
Cheese,
What's
yeah.
that?
Everyone
Okay.
likes cheese.
All right. Anyway. All right, why don't you take the charts?
I got it. All right, I got it. You know, speaking of which, we were looking at you know, yields. This is like the big head and shoulder pattern that I think we should be looking at. Or here's the 10-year, and we have the here we go. There we go. There's your inverted head and shoulder pattern, and we're testing the underside of this big major broken trend line here. So. But Dale, you were looking at Microsoft, right? And I agree, Microsoft's sitting on some pretty key support. It's the one that got hit. Let me go find it really fast. You know, we got Microsoft under pressure, right? And this morning it's down, you know, 4%, but still, you know, in big triangle support. But the flip side is you have, you know, Meta that's at new all-time highs, and you know, thought it might be a throw over yesterday.
Yeah, it
It's still
was.
continuing higher.
Yeah,
Well,
it is a throwover. Yeah, and
it
the
is
way
a
you
throwover. I
trade,
mean, but it could also
yeah,
be it could end up being a, you know, just a, you know, ascending channel too. You know what I mean?
I guess.
So yeah, I mean, we could still
A
look at it like,
throwovers, you don't trade until it's back inside the throwover line.
right. It has to get back below. I would
It's
even
just
say
like a
this red
false
line here.
breakout or, you
Yeah,
know, just or breakdown. Same
right,
thing.
right. But
But the
it's still.
RSI is pretty blown out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know what RSI has been blown out like on a daily basis on this whole rally is take a look at the German DAX. You can't even look at relative strength right now because the German DAX just continues to blow up to the upside. I mean, here you mean take a look at this, the DAX. Even today, it's screaming higher. And I
Yeah.
mean, we've had divergent relative strength after divergent relative strength in this whole move here. So this is a great representation of a market that continue to move higher and defy odds. So that's why I'm like, you know,
Well, I'm sure glad I shorted Nvidia instead of the DAX.
yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, yeah. Hey, yeah, yeah, the DeepSeek news. That's and it's nice to have those wins, especially in a market that looks as strong as it does, you know, overall.
Minute to the ECB.
Oh, ECB. Shoot. Thank you. Thank you. You guys let me know what's happening with the ECB. I mean, I'm assuming they're going to be cutting. So let's take a look at the euro here. We have 25 seconds here. Let's pull this up really quick. There's a data flash.
Asshole.
Dale, did you say asshole?
Huh?
Did you say asshole?
What are you talking about?
I thought somebody just
I
said
thought you said
asshole.
beautiful. I thought you said beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. I thought you said asshole. I was like, dang.
You need another cup of coffee, Blake.
I do. I've been up since early this morning.
25.
Yeah, as expected. As expected, and zero response in the air. So, so what we'll be waiting for. And matter of fact, let's bring in Ryan. Ryan, what do you think we should be waiting for the ECB? What should we be expecting? Excuse me, from the Lagarde today.
By the looks of the statement, nothing. Everything in the statement looks to be the same, data dependent, meeting by meeting, blah 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 blah. We're committed to getting inflation stabilising at 2%, blah blah blah. So what I think will happen is we're going to get another boring one. What I hope would happen is we get a few comments whether they're going to continue cutting at this pace or they're going to look to take their foot off the brake. But yeah, I'm not hopeful.
All right. So let's K-Man, what do you think is going to be going today?
What a
Good
non-event.
morning, good morning, good morning. I tend to agree. We were saying already a couple of times, we are in the waiting room for what's going to happen this weekend. So all the central banks now have done their thing or are doing their thing, and now they wait for what's going to happen. I guess Lagarde is again going to talk, be cautious on growth, of course, because they have to, because we again had weak numbers out of the Eurozone this morning. So no reason to get optimistic about the Euro. And I think, I mean, it's possible that she comes out a little like McClem yesterday, saying like, we're getting ready to support if something really bad comes out of Trump's decisions on tariffs, etc. So that's kind of where she will be, and then for the rest, it's going to be a snoozer, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm just sitting here thinking that I'm a little unimpressed with FX volatility, and I have a feeling that we're going to just be seeing kind of a very slow market until this
Yeah.
weekend. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, exactly. We're in the waiting room, Blake. We're in the waiting room to see the doctor, and the doctor will tell us if we are in good health or if we should stop smoking.
Right. Well, I would not want to be in that waiting room, and I think we are in that waiting room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I would have to agree with that. So, so let's discuss, and Dale, let me ask you about this since we were talking stocks. We have Apple today, and you're talking about the generals getting taken out to the woodshed. But Apple's rallied back to pretty key
Halfway
levels
back.
after, what's that?
About halfway back.
Yeah, about halfway back, 50% retracement. What do you think is going to happen with Apple here?
Oh, I never predict earnings. I just react to them. But I think that the high's in Apple, and this is a retrace to sell. 244. I may take a shot up there with some June puts. So, but I can't predict, earnings. They're all over the place. So, I don't know anyone that can. It's like predicting a big
NFT.
miss or
Yeah.
Silly.
So here we are at the underside of this broken trend line. I mean, I wouldn't want to stand in front of it either. The clear play was obviously the move lower from the highs after. This is a good example, Dale, of a throwover, right? It went above like channel resistance. We broke through some trend line support. We got to the 200 DMA. Nice little pivot. If I was a bull, I wouldn't want to see below that 200 DMA at this point in time. But as you were pointing out, with earnings and with the volatility that we're seeing pre-market or post-market in a lot of these stocks, there's a chance that Apple could be. I would assume the implied volatility for Apple is quite high going into today. I have to go and check back with Nick. Nick is he's been reporting on what all the implied earnings are, but yeah, it's I think we could get some volatility today, especially with Apple. But when you go back to your original comments about the big generals, what are the biggest and most widely held stocks out there? You have Nvidia, you have Apple, obviously the whole Mag 7, but we're seeing weakness in these, and really,
Okay,
you're
pull up
seeing.
Amazon and tell me if you'd buy it here. No, it's the other way.
Yeah, I mean it is at all-time highs.
All
I
right.
wouldn't be buying it with the divergent relative strength,
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm saying. Okay.
it's
All right.
still at all-time highs, right? I mean,
Okay, and Google hasn't made a new high, probably will.
yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
still sitting up here, and it's kind of like, Amazon's one of those situations where you broke down from those all-time highs, after that Nvidia news, and then popped right back up again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
an ugly RSI picture. It
it
was
is.
what candle is that's a daily, so yesterday would have been a sell signal because you had a down day. Um, but I'd rather, the reason I sold Nvidia is it wasn't making new highs. Okay, it was a retrace trade, crowded trade at 147 last week. Okay, so that was my reason for it. Nvidia really hasn't made a lot of progress since last June. We've gotten some highs, and it's an overowned stock. It's part of the AI bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it definitely is. Um, well, let's shift gears and let's talk a little bit about currencies and talk about what's happening this weekend. Because this weekend, we obviously have a risk of tariffs, or I would say, obviously, February 1st is coming around, and this could lead to an announcement from President Trump and what he's going to do with tariffs. And as you can see, the dollar CAD is sitting sideways in this really tight range here. I've kind of mapped it out for you guys so you guys can see, like, if we get obviously any response is going to take us either back down to 140 or up towards 147. And this is kind of like trying to guess earnings, is trying to guess what Trump's going to do over the weekend. But
And why
Ryan,
over the weekend? Why over the weekend?
why?
Why
Because he
not
said,
when markets are open?
well, because he said February 1st, so we all have to
Uh,
assume it's going to be
so
Saturday.
everyone could just commiserate for 48 hours before the
Yeah,
opening.
I mean that's the bottom line. And the question is, we don't know if we're going to get this now. I would assume that they're going to make an announcement after the markets close on Friday or Saturday morning, and that or we could just pass the weekend. And what my thoughts would be is that we pass the weekend and there's been no substantial news on tariffs, and the dollar Canadian is going to gap a lot lower. But what are your thoughts here, Ryan? Because obviously we're focused in the FX market on you know what's happening this weekend. I'm trying to reduce positions and I've actually been very efficient in trying to reduce positions over the course of the last several days to get out a dollar exposure. But what are your thoughts here?
I think behind the scenes they're all scrabbling around. Mentioned on the Flow Show, and Mike's just mentioned it here as well. The foreign minister, Canadian foreign minister, met with Rubio yesterday. There was no big lines out, but they're talking. Everyone's talking, and the first we'll hear what's happened is either they'll come out and say tariffs are reverted, we're going to play ball with what Trump wants, or it'll be silence and we get a headline, Trump slapping tariffs on because they won't play ball. So there's still two-sided risks that we get a headline saying, deals have been done, no tariffs, and then you'll get your reaction before the close. But I think he's picked the weekend, because it's markets are closed, but it's set the deadline for close of business Friday.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the gapping risk over the weekend I think is quite high, and especially if you take, whether it's the dollar CAD or you take the dollar MEX, which I know you are looking to short the dollar mex on any rally. Me too, as well. I just want to be long Mexican pesos. I just don't know when the right, trying to figure out when the right time to do it is. Obviously, letting the dust settle a little bit. But
Yeah.
K-Man, what are your thoughts as we go into this weekend?
Yeah, I'm same. I've got the impression it may be. I not that he's going to not tariff anyone, but yeah, perhaps we are going to have some kind of news about extended negotiations. As a matter of fact, yesterday I already, but very, very light, already sold a bit of Euromix. But it's yeah, I'm kind of betting that he's not going to slap the strong tariff straight away. But this being said, we can't ignore that his closest surrounding I mean people around him his closest team, they are all hardliners. So it's still an open question, but I'm kind of betting that it's not going to be as bad as feared from the start. And you know what? The markets are already trading it a little in that direction as well. If you look, for instance, at something like the yen, dollar yen is lower. Yes, the Bank of Japan has been reducing the QE amounts and will continue to reduce. But there's a lot of talks going on between U.S. officials, and next week Ishiba is going to meet Trump as well. So we kind of already see a little bit of that for the yen, and obviously gap open guaranteed on Sunday night in Canada and Mex, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's go around the horn and see what you guys are thinking. So Dale, what are you up to today? What are you thinking today? Because I'm spending the next couple of days just trying to sit on my hands waiting for this, February 1st to come and go and see what comes about. But what are you thinking right now?
Well, I don't have to press. Had a good week. I'm going to be patient and buy a fib retrace in euro and hoping to sell Dixie at 108.50 in the coming days.
All right. And the euro, I mean that I keep thinking and in my head that we're going to see the 103.50 level, which is this line right here, but it's like I don't know. It's like I want to see a dip. I just don't know if we're going to see it. So you would think the 108.50 level for the dollar index is what your level would be if we saw it, which would, it would be all the way up here. And I don't know if you guys have seen the 2017 moves in the dollar index versus what's happening right now. It's very, very similar, very, very similar. But Ryan, what are you thinking at this moment?
Just try and survive.
Right.
No, I mean and Kay sort of made a good point. Just going back to the tariffs thing, another part of it is that we could just get an extension of negotiations, so there'll be no tariffs, but the discussions are ongoing. So that's a third outcome. But coming back to today, I'm in the same boat as you guys, looking at the euro. Everyone's looking at that 103.50, which makes it a bit dangerous. But yeah, if we get down there and test it and hold it, then that's going to be possibly a decent bullish signal.
The fib is actually a little bit underneath it by 20, 30 pips.
Yeah,
So
my zone.
Yeah.
Go on, mate.
Go ahead. That's
I was going to say I've got a bit of a zone down there, sort of 103, 35, 40 up to 60. It's a bit of an area.
Yeah, it's a mattress.
So, yeah.
A mattress underneath the number. Yeah.
But we're still in an uptrend. Cable's still in its bounce uptrend. Other pairs like Aussie dollar, they look to be breaking that uptrend. These dead cat bounces that we've been speaking about. So we're getting a bit of divergence between some of the pairs at the moment.
And K-Man, we have less than a minute here before this data, actually less than 30 seconds before the advanced GDP numbers come out. What are you thinking?
Yeah, just as an FYI, one of the bigger US banks thinks that it may come out a little weaker, but it's just for what it's worth, I was looking at silver as well, and it seems the market there is also starting to trade that it may not be as bad as feared on the tariff side, because otherwise there would be no reason to buy silver. And silver is breaking above $31 right now, unless GDP, which comes out now.
Well, there's a problem with where it was
Uh,
supply, physical supply.
If you look at jobless
2.3.
claims.
Soft 2.3.
Yeah, 2.3. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So that American bank was on it.
Wow. That's a weak.
They were
weak.
right, but still wrong, Kay. I'm enamored by that.
Yeah,
You know,
thank
it's
God it doesn't do
interesting.
anything.
The dollar actually strengthened on
Not
that
doing anything
news.
else.
Yields
Yeah,
are
well,
popping higher. What gives?
Maybe nothing before the weekend, Blake, but yeah, we'll see. I'll put
Yeah.
Kat now to tell us what she wants to say.
trade your
Yeah,
charts.
What's that, George? Or what's that, Dale? Sorry, I was looking at George's picture.
Trade your charts.
Yeah, well, I think it's and just trade carefully ahead of this weekend is
Wear
gonna be
earplugs. Wear earplugs.
it.
Don't read the news.
Sorry, Dale.
No, go ahead, bro.
I was say there is a bit of strength in the GDP numbers. Spending, that was well up, 4.2%, so good for the consumer. PCE, that was well up as well. So there's your inflation, which we all know, and the good continuing claims. So that's one reason why you might be getting a bit of a dollar rally, bond rally outside of that headline number.
All right. Well, Dale, I'm going to pass you over to your interview. I know you have George here, so I'm going to pass you on over and want to thank everybody for being here. Happy Thursday to everybody, and good luck sitting on your hands.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Blake. Thanks, Ryan. Kay.
Thanks, mate.
All right, buddy. Good hunting today, guys. Hi, George. Happy New Year to you almost a month
Happy
later.
New Year to you, Dale.
Yeah.
It's always good to be back here.
Yeah. You know, I caught in your stream that you've gotten out of the market. And
Yeah,
that's a big change for you because you've been long forever.
Oh yeah, and it's stressful because
To be out.
Yeah, to be out when you don't have risk, and it's especially stressful because and I want to share this with you guys because there's every reason why we'll carry on upwards in the market, and there's also all sorts of interesting opportunities, I think, but we're overlaid with a pretty crazy governance right now. This is not to diss Trump or be pro-Trump or anything like that, but there's just no leadership coming out of the Senate, Congress, the House. Trump is just, he's baffling me. I'm bewildered, I guess is a better word. And I think we're set up for very large jumps. I think it might actually end up up, and it might end up in a mania. I got some stuff to show you. But I think it also could be, a very dismal setting. But what it is going to do is shift out of like the framing that people have in terms of macro analysis and also perhaps your stuff too, technical analysis, and just suddenly appear in a whole different valley. So I had a great year.
Yeah,
and,
So you felt uncomfortable with.
I
mean, tariffs. You're an economist. Tariffs aren't a bullish thing, a growth policy.
No, they're not bearish, but the trouble is that they're strategic. If the tariffs do come in and they're regularly known to all our trading partners, people have no choice but to deal with the United States. And whatever they say, we're going to go deal with Taiwan. Okay, fine, but they will deal with the U.S. So there could be a one-time jump in prices, which is not inflationary. It's just that things are worth more. They cost more. But at the same time, we're gonna hit the original Lighthouser, who was the original trade guy under Trump 1. We will be motivated to build quite a lot of production capacity here in the U.S. And it's coming in a fairly tight labor market. So I think as sort of a pragmatic economist, I'm actually all for them. Now, the thing with Trump is that he seems to always want to go a bridge too far. So replacing tariffs with income tax, getting rid of income tax, I don't know. And anyway, that process is going to be a very, very chaotic. People are going to say a lot of goofy stuff. He's going to, already he had to back off his holding of funds because the courts are going to go after him. He's headed for a major fight with the Supreme Court. I think it's a mistake to see the Supreme Court as Republican, like they're his appointees. I don't think they see that. They see themselves as federalists, and that's even the most adamant conservative type guy. And I think they're going to claim the constitutional powers of the Supreme Court and go head to head with Trump. I think that'll be a surprise.
That would be.
Yeah. And then the other thing too, you're talking about peso, and I was looking at Canada. It's interesting that the Canadian foreign minister, right now, just today, or was it just yesterday, the first meeting that Rubio took was with Canada. So they're already in deep negotiations. And then Lutnick let slip the day prior, that if Canada would just stop shipping fentanyl into the United States, they wouldn't have any tariffs applied. Now, I think he screwed up. I think, and this is alarming too, that the Commerce Secretary make this mistake, if it is a mistake. I think he meant Mexico. Because
there's not fentanyl coming from Canada.
Well, there's like, I don't know, 2 pounds. I have no idea.
I mean, I do have, my Crown Royal imported. Anyway, but
what do you do with the what do you do with the little blue bags?
Oh, I put all my Bitcoin and gold coins in there. You want my address? Anyway, George, so did you go into like bonds to get some interest or short-term stuff?
I have a problem with bonds, is that the correlation, like the amount of offset you get from bonds to equity, is still positive. It's pretty crazy. And bonds are still considered as in the bailiwick of the Fed, and they're still considered to be a higher rates is bad for equity. And that hasn't gone to the reality of economics, which is that the higher the risk-free goes, the more it's indicative of a higher NGDP, which is more indicative of a higher equity market. In other words, equity bonds should be an offset. So I don't get that correlation. I think it's going to come back with a bang, but until it does, I'm not going to play.
You have a view on what's happening with gold, about to press into new historic highs?
No, I stay away, just because maybe it's a cheat, but I stay away from gold and crypto.
Okay.
All right. Doesn't fit any of the frameworks that I apply. The big story, I think, here, Dale, is that we have still very significant money coming into the economy from the federal government. It was massive in COVID, like 9 trillion gross. I think I mentioned this before. And now it's much less, but people are just looking at it as much less just because it ain't incredible. But it's still very strong, and it's more than enough fiscal impulse into the economy to generate 6.5% NGDP. I think that means that we're going to see another bout of inflation rising. It's going to be less jagged, but I think it's going to like inch up bit by bit toward 4%. And I think real GDP, which I think we saw this morning, it's just a head scratcher. I think I don't want to get into conspiracy stuff, but I think they're painting the picture to assist the Fed. And they're trying to let the Fed be able to ease with honor to suit Trump, because it was clearly well over 3% until we had inventory and trade. And trade, they're both notoriously volatile. And anyway, Trump is adamant that he's going to address the trade problem. So maybe they're stockpiling stuff before the barriers go up. I don't know, but I don't think it's an indicative number that means anything as far as the economy goes.
Okay.
As far as Canada goes, I'm as I sit here on my hands and to stay out of trouble, I'm quite willing to say, like, heck, I might end up with missing a huge rally. And it doesn't do anything like what it could have, should have, that, hey, it could have fallen out of bed, so I did the right thing. It's just very stressful. But what I am doing is I'm finding it not so much easy, but it's interesting to trade currency. And then I get into the technical analysis camp. I'm seeing very clear patterns. I worked in Canada for a while. I'm originally supposedly Canadian. Every year I gotta go buy some loonies to walk around. So that it doesn't make me an expert, but I have in the past, probably too long ago to justify claiming knowledge, but I have traded considerable size in Canadian. And my thoughts now is that it is an impossibility for the United States to put a tariff on Canada. And it's an impossibility for Canada to respond or retaliate.
Right.
We get 30% of all our construction goods from Canada,
Right.
basically softwood. And that's just not going to happen.
Okay, so you don't expect the tariffs on Canada. So are you looking for a major bottom? Here's Canada. Let's go a little long term and tell me what you're seeing and what side of the market you're looking to trade. There's a weekly. So are you going to bet that Canada can get stronger? Because this is representative of it being weak, right? And
I think the 134 to 138 is a screwed up Trudeau and all they're flopping around with all the junk they've been doing.
The breakout.
Yeah, and I think it's going to go down there, especially if the progressive conservative, I always love that name, get elected. And it's almost like a Trump clone is running for power, and it looks like he's got 20 points ahead of the Liberals. So they are going to come into power, and that's going to eliminate the NDP, this coalition government of NDP. That's the socialists with Liberals. And I think it's going to have big change. So I think at the very least, we're going to get to 138. And we're probably, we might be in store towards something like under 120. But anyway. So
the potential major top. And you know what? You have some pretty smart company. Joseph Joseph Wang. I interview some smart. You're not the only smart guy I talk to.
Yeah.
Joseph Wang was on the Fed desk, Fed guy 12, and he was looking for a return in the dollar, so he converted dollars into Canadian. So he's long Canada, and he's using the Canadians to buy natural resource stocks in Canada.
I don't think that's
with dividends.
I think that's a wise move. Going into stocks. Now I don't know anything about Canadian stocks these days, and I do know that Toronto's much more of an oligarch type organization than anyone thinks.
Yeah,
and it's an insider market, so I'm not going to play with the stocks. But the Canadian dollar, it has to go to certain levels just to be able to, for the good of the United States, for the huge partnership. Even the fact that Canada, I don't know if it's right to call them the 51st state, but they're definitely within the U.S. domain, and so that's going to correct. And all this talk about tariffs and blah blah blah, and Trudeau's going to retaliate. Well, anyway, the Canadian Foreign Minister is sitting and talking to Rubio. It's the first meeting he took as state.
Okay.
So they
know how important Canada is to us.
Oh yeah, they absolutely know. I think a lot of people in the U.S. think Trudeau's a flamer. I can't disagree with them. The vast majority of Canadians now think that too. But it's typical for Trump. He's going too far. and he's actually sitting in an opportunity to really sink in Canada, drop Mexico, stop the back door of outsourcing that they'd use Mexico for. Got the cartel problem, so I think that's where Rubio's going to go. Rubio's a deeply experienced person out of the Senate. He's like one of the few adults in this administration so far, and I think we're going to see some interesting things coming out of that. So what my game plan is just day trade, and as soon as I can get like one or two points, maybe down to 142, then I'm just going to let it go overnight and build. So that's a game plan. I don't know. That's in your belly. What do you think about that, Dale?
Okay. You haven't traded for a while. I would trade small ball, trade micro lots in Canada for a while. You're not going to get paid, but you'll still have some money on the line. So that emotion is part of it. And do that for about 6 months and see how you did, and then increase size.
Yeah.
You asked for advice. I mean,
Yeah, no, I'm taking it. Actually, it's sort of what I'm doing. I'm really playing in it almost. Just doing like 50, 100,000 lots.
Yeah.
So
that's one contract. Yeah.
Yeah. It's 50 $50 to 100. Point.
Right.
So I'm really respecting my.
You know what you ought to do? You ought
What's
to
that?
join. You ought to join Forex Analytix and be inside the community, and really and
Yeah,
learn.
no,
you can learn.
I think I said before to you that it was certainly the case for the last 2 years. It's now the case is that if you're trading equity or any risky assets, you only have two choices. One, you can join the mem froth, like the sentiment. It's up here, it's down here, it's RRP, it's all these acronyms and inside secret sauce stuff, and whichever has the most follow gets to run the market for a day or so.
Well, you know what? You only have two eyes, and that's why being part of a community is important.
Okay, I'm complimenting you. You'd like me, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anyway, if not ours, find a good community.
Yeah,
and find people that are better than you.
Yeah,
to surround yourself with better traders.
Yeah, but carrying on is that the other option is to take a 1 to 2 year view, and look to the macro only, which is what I've done.
Do that.
And then the other, otherwise, I think whether these sentiment guys want to admit it or not, the technical analysis is all there is now. The Fed is so distant from reality. The administration's crazy, at least from my point of view, that I think all there is lost control and trading the patterns.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wish you a lot of luck on your new career. I just have seen a lot of people do it, and you don't become a good technician overnight. So
yeah,
take it slow.
I'm very respectful of it. I've worked too many years with foreign exchange guys, so.
All right. And don't forget to use stops. If you ever
you can talk to your blue in the face, and they look at you like a fool when you start talking about the spread between 10 years between Germany and the U.S. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then they just nod politely, and then they just go out and make money. So I get it.
Yeah, you have a stop in there at all times.
Yeah. What I'm hoping, Dale, and I'll just leave this with you, is that I'm hoping that I don't really care if it's good or bad or this or that, but I just want things settled, that we understand what this administration can and can't do. We understand what Senate is going to do and can't do. We get what the Supreme Court's going to do, and we just get settled and it gets priced in. And then I think there's a very good chance that we have the like it sounds foolish to even to say it, but there's so much money coming to this market from the Feds still. The Federal Reserve is just a non-event right now. I don't know if Wang mentioned that, but I certainly think all they are is just spinning memes. And I think that's going to add up to that. As soon as we settle down, we're going to have just a glorious mania. Just wow.
Okay, so
And
how about this for a takeaway? We get a 10% or more correction into the spring, into, March, April, May, and then by then the Fed is pumping even more, and we have the melt up that you're talking about into
yeah, and I don't think we're going to get the correction.
no
I think
correction.
either there's going to be some political problem, which is going to start the downside of the mania right away. So
The
it's going to be
down
a lot more than
the
10%. But as soon as that settles and we're still alive, despite the craziness,
oh
there is
oh
just so much money coming into this economy, and
all right.
it's
Well, here's the S&P, George. Are you saying that
yeah.
we're going to have that's what I said. You think it's going to be more than a correction? We're going to have like a what, like 20-30% sell off in S&Ps to take us down
No,
here?
I think we're going to like settle right around here, maybe down to 5,900, maybe up to 6,100.
Mhm.
A lot of talk, a lot of contrary. There's no, it's this tastes good, less filling. Um,
Mhm.
all sorts of newly minted economic geniuses, political analysis, pro-Trump. Anyway, it's just going to be a mess. But as soon as there's clarity, I think we're going to see. We're going to go up toward. Anyway, it's almost ridiculous to put a level, but a mania. It's going to just drive, and everyone's going to do high fives, and Trump's the greatest, and all this stuff. And so I guess you want to ride the mania, but it's sort of like surfing in a hurricane wave. But what's going to come after this mania, and who knows where it takes it? Well over, 65.
7,000. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
well
Yeah.
over. I think
Okay.
it's going to be very dire because all our institutions are going to be failing, and then it's almost too dramatic to say where it goes down. But I think we're up for an end game of like, I don't know, 29, 19, 12, all these
Yeah.
like very dramatic things to say, but
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty wild.
So I'm still trying to figure out why you're not long.
Because there's
After listening to you for 20 minutes, why aren't you long?
because I don't know if I can get out if I think there's a chance that we have a really big constitutional crisis way beyond Jan 6. It's going to be just a mess.
Before or
It's
after the melt up?
before. And
All right. Well, then you're talking if a constitutional crisis. Why? Because of the debt ceiling?
no, it's going to be like impeachment's going to come up. I don't know. It's just there's too many offsetting crazy things going down. Maybe I'm just a coward, but
Okay.
I don't want to play in that mist.
All right. Well, you're the most strongly bullish neutral guy I've ever talked to. Anyway, George, I root for you. Whatever you want to do, Godspeed and may
Well,
pips rain down on you.
I'd be complimented to join your community quite frequently, and I'll make sure that I'll message you in terms of whether I break one way or the other.
All right, buddy. George
Okay.
Robertson. You still want people to follow you and read your stuff on
Yes,
Substack?
please.
So here's
And,
George's Substack on. It's called The Monetary Frontier, and he has all of his articles, and you could tell that George is really a thinker. And I learned some things from him that a half an hour ago I didn't know. So
yeah,
there you go, George. We're
yeah,
fans.
that'd be
We're
great. Also, if you want, that's where I try to show that I'm sane. But if you
yeah.
want some off the cuff, sometimes thoughtless comment, at Bickering Brattle on X.
Good hunting, my now
Okay.
trading warrior brother. Now I can really call you a trading warrior brother. Anyway, all
Okay,
right,
let's
buddy.
see how I do.
All
Okay.
right.
All
Okay.
right. Talk
All
to
right,
you.
George.
Bye
Rooting
bye.
for you. Adios. All right, that's a wrap, everybody, for today. I hope you enjoyed. He is into yeah. I like George a lot. Okay. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings. We'll wrap it up with TGIF. Good hunting, everyone. All right. Yeah, I am too. Like having a good decade this year. Who's up for it? Who wants to have a good decade in a year? Aren't we due? All right. See you, Luis. Laura. We'll wait. We'll wait for you.